Okay, good morning everybody, or good afternoon or good evening for those online, no matter where you are. We see we've got a few online. Welcome to the Global Membership Council annual meeting. My name's Jeff Mitchell and I hail from Australia, if you haven't picked that up on the accent already. And I have the distinct honour of being chair of the Global Membership Council. Can I ask everyone, if you haven't signed in, you do sign in. We have a book over here for sign-in, so we can record that. Those online, we are taking notes of those who are online. Just on my observations, I don't believe we have a quorum to conduct formal business. So as such, there may be we'll take this meeting as more notation, and there'll be some items of business obviously we can't transact, and we'll have to carry them over. So I think to start with, I would ask those members of the... It's not working. You can
just tell them to advance the slide.
Can I have an advance on the slide, thanks? Try again. Look at that. Okay, so we...
Can you record, please?
Okay. So, as I said, we do have members online, and this meeting will be recorded. For those members online, you will be muted, and we will have opportunity for you to comment, to go through as if we do have that opportunity. Slide, please. There we go. So essentially, this is what we're going to run through. A pretty basic agenda. As I said, some of the items will just be for noting, certainly when we work through confirming minutes and the like. So what I might do, I might start with the members of the executive current here to introduce themselves. Now, I notice my vice chair from Canada is not online. And we might start with Bob, who is our outgoing secretary. Yep. Go right, Lynn.
Lynn Balfour, representing Canada.
And one of our new executive members. Any Lou?
I'm Annie from Colorado.
Rock. Members of our executive. For those other members in the room, would you like to introduce yourself? Alberto, you're up the front, so you may as well go first. So, and my staff liaison.
Judy Zakreski, staff liaison.
And my board liaison.
Shirley Ellis with City of Bastrop, and I'm the board liaison.
Okay, and those online, sorry, I've lost the picture who's on there. I think we had, if we could unmute our online people, please. I know we had David Gibson there from the UK. David?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, we've just unmuted you, mate. So we've got. If you want to reintroduce yourself, please.
Hi, David Gibson. I work as a building control consultant currently working with the Health and Safety Executive and the Building Safety Regulator, working on the issues to do with competency and also the registration
Thanks, David. We missed a little bit of that there, but for those in the room, David also represents the World Organisation of Building Officials, WOBO. Who else did we have online? Can you ask our IT to unmute everyone, please? They unmute themselves.
Yeah, this is Lawrence Janess. I'm an ICC staff member in the Brea, California office, and I work closely with supporting Judy's efforts, who's there in person.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, look, thank you, everybody. We do have a few gaps, as I said, in the our executive in there as well. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so we can't approve those minutes because we do not have a quorum. So next slide, please. Okay, before I move to that, I'd like to welcome Timo to the executive. Timo has been attending ICC conferences since 2007 at Reno, and we've finally roped him in to play an active part within the Global Council. So welcome aboard. Probably the first thing before I do an opening statement, I have 3 outgoing executive members who have contributed a lot over the last, some for 6 years, so actually 7 years, because we all had an extension of 12 months, didn't we? So only one of those members is here, but Jeffrey Wilkinson from the US steps off the committee, and Maurice Nguaba from, he's a USA Nigerian member, also steps off the committee. But we do have Bob Heinrich, is our secretary from the United States, who steps off the committee, has had his 2 terms. So Bob, on behalf of the Global Membership Council, I'd like to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And you can meet, you can call me mate, and just take that as a small token of our thanks.
Thank you.
Picture. Oh, here, let me move. I don't need to be in that picture. This doesn't mean you're not leaving, though, you're still
Yeah, so you'll be back in 12 months on the executive. So. And we do have certificates of thanks for the other outgoing members, which we will organise to get to them. I'd say, probably as an opening statement, it's so good to be back here face to face again. As I said, couldn't make last year because of the restrictions in travel from Australia, and obviously the year before that, the conference was cancelled. So it's really good to be back face to face, because I think, like everyone, although our normal meetings are held via WebEx, it's really good to get the one in place for us together. But look, even with all the disruptions, I think the council itself, we've achieved a fair bit. We've got quite a few irons in the fire. We've got a few balls in the air which we're trying to juggle, which we'll tease out as we work through the balance of the report that we have. So I will go through the mid-year report that has been submitted to the board. which will outline essentially some of the activities that we've done, and you can see the highlights of that on the screen. So the annual report goes to the board in December, and some of the things in the report is our annual meeting, which was held in hybrid format last year. Said we can't, that was in Pittsburgh, and we were lucky enough to have a number of people on the ground, but the vast majority of us were online. We've had our quarterly governing meetings in October, January, April and July. But the big initiative, and probably the most successful initiative we've had, has been our webinar series. We ran new technologies in 2021. We ran a soft skills webinar series in February 2022. We did mass timber construction in July 2022. Annie Lou facilitated that for us. Soft skills was with Ron Lynn. And we have got 2 more planned for the year. So we've got architectural innovation, and then we have a 4th one planned, and we're looking at battery storage and fire safety and some of the concerns we've got there. So these have proved very successful. You can access online the past versions if you'd like to catch up on those. One of the things that I mentioned when I came back in the chair was we need to try and probably find our identity. What is our purpose? What is a value proposition of being a member of this council? And we've had some working groups set up to look at that. I attended a meeting with all the membership council chairs and vice chairs the other afternoon, and I think every one of the membership councils is struggling with the same thing about membership. What are we here to do? What does the board expect of us? So we're all having similar discussions at this point in time. But we've set up a working group to have a look at that and looking at some of what value we can add in being a member of this council. One of the things that we've been very successful in doing is our Connections Day, which has now been retitled as our Global Discussion, where we've been able to bring in some fantastic speakers and talk about global issues. And for those that missed our forum yesterday, you missed a fantastic forum with a brilliant speaker from the UK. And I hope that will be, it was recorded, and that will be made available online shortly. What else did we have? So, okay, so there is some more detail on that later in the agenda. So one of the things we also kicked off was something we've been talking about probably for 6 or 7 years now, is a sister chapter partnership. And we finally got our first relationship happening. The sister chapter program was about aligning with the US-based ICC chapter with one of the global chapters. And that has now been set up through BBCOA and our ICC Kenya chapter. And they've had their initial meeting together. I haven't got nothing else to report on that at this stage, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops. It's a great pilot scheme for us, because we are now starting to see the ICC establish a number of chapters external to the US who are quite active chapters and are searching for direction. It's all about giving guidance to those offshore, as a bit of a sounding board and also as a cross-information type feed as well. What have I missed?
That's from the mid-year report.
That's from the mid-year report. Okay, so do I have any questions on that? So that will make up the final report, which will have to be submitted in December. There's no questions. I will ask Shirley for her board liaison report.
So, turn me on so you can hear me. I'm going to start by doing a follow-up to our last discussion concerning international chapters and report that at the board meeting on Saturday, the board approved the ICC chapter for Bangladesh. So it's our newest chapter, and it happens to be a global chapter. So I'm really excited about who we're going to get to partner with them. That's going to be, I think, fun and exciting. We have a lot going on in ICC, as you know. We continue to grow and do amazing things, and a lot of it's due to the hard work of our membership and of our staff. And we're in a very healthy position and continue to be so with the lagging economy. When we first started, the board was not too sure how would we come out towards the end, but it's looking still very, very well. So I'm available for any questions. The details on what goes on with this and in this world, I always leave to Judy because they change so fast, and she's always adding new and exciting things that I either leave something out or I get something that's outdated to give to you. So she's much better at that update, and I don't want to steal some of her thunder. I just want to say you are blessed to have her. She works amazing things in all across the country, and I am very honored to be the liaison to this board, this membership council, and I hope that continues. So thank you for letting me come and attend and play with y'all.
Thank you very much, Shirley, and congratulations on your re-election to the board. And I certainly hope that we can convince the executive to have you continue in this role, because you certainly do have a passion for the global activities, and you're always there for us, so that's been great. So thanks very much, Shirley. Any questions of Shirley? Seeing none, I'll now ask Judy to give the Global Services report.
Are you able to use the clicker, or should I?
Thank you, everyone. So in trying to share new information with all of you, I thought I might provide a little bit of an update of the things that we have planned for the rest of this year at ICC. For those of you that don't normally join our governing committee meetings, I usually do provide a pretty hefty update about all of the things that are going on. And we just had a meeting at the end of July, so not a whole lot has transpired since then. But I do have an actual team, which is very exciting. I went from having just myself and Mohammed Amr in Dubai, doubled the size of this group. So I'm happy to have Lawrence Janess, who is on the line here. Lawrence has been with ICC for about at least 10 years. He can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, in various positions. But Lawrence has a lot of strength in marketing. And so I'm excited to have him on board. Not only is he good with marketing and online communications, but because he's been at ICC for 10 years, he really knows the family of solutions. And the role of the Global Services Department here is really to promote the whole family of solutions outside the United States. So it's not just trying to get people outside the US to adopt the I-codes, it's really listening to people in other markets to find out what their pain points are, what their needs are, and if we have a solution to help them, to work with them to offer that solution. So it's great to have Lawrence on board. We're also, so Mohammed Amr is in charge of our Dubai office that serves the whole Middle East and North Africa region. And then we are just in the process of opening an office in Australia. So the board approved that office in June? At the June meeting, and so we've moved forward with that. We had identified a strong candidate in Australia. Neil Savory is the former CEO of the Australian Building Codes Board, which is the group in Australia that is responsible for writing the building codes. So he's very knowledgeable about the Australian market, all facets of building code adoption, implementation, enforcement, and he's also already he knew Jeff and Nick before he joined us, but he's been connecting with them in more detail, and we've had wonderful collaboration from both Jeff and Nick, and sort of looking at how we can meet the needs in the Oceania region. And then I've just listed a few of the other things that I'm doing sort of extracurricularly, but really to lead or to provide thought leadership in the realm of building safety outside the United States. So I'm the Secretariat of the IRCC, the Interjurisdictional Regional Collaboration Committee, which is a group of building regulators from countries that use some degree of performance-based regulation in their building codes. And so there's about 15 countries involved with that, and it's a great resource. I'm the executive director, something that I've been a bit shy about embracing because of the level of work. I keep pretending it's not actually going to happen, but I'm the executive director of the Ibqc, the International Building Quality Center, which is a group that started at the University of Canberra, but we've recently helped them to incorporate in the United States to give the organization a bit of longevity. It's about 2 or 3 years old. But it's basically a think tank about best practices in building regulation, building safety, with a hefty focus on emerging economies, which is really important. It's a good place for us to sort of expand into offering our services to the global south and emerging economies, especially countries that don't have any kind of building regulatory system. And it's not just about implanting the IBC in those countries, because that's not a viable solution to actually achieve safer buildings. ICC is the U.S. TAG administrator to the ISO Technical Committee 59, which is on buildings and civil engineering works. So these are the international standards that are developed at the International Standards Organization level. Each country has a national standards body that's the official representative to ISO. In the United States, we don't have a national standards body. So ANSI has been appointed as the representative for the United States to ISO, but they ask their membership to volunteer to serve at the hundreds of different technical committees at ISO, and we finally stepped forward last year to serve as the TAG administrator. So basically, we're gathering groups of or any interested parties from the United States to participate in reviewing standards that come before ISO Technical Committee 59. So if anybody in this room is interested in participating in that technical advisory group, it's open to the only requirement is that you have an interest in buildings and civil engineering works and you're based in the United States. So we provide a U.S. consensus position to the issues that come up within ISO TC 59. And we're also, within that, also the administrator for Subcommittee 19 on prefabricated construction. And I work closely with my colleague Ryan Kolker on that. But it's an open invitation. If anybody wants more information, I'm happy to provide it to you. And we do have a website dedicated to this work. And finally, I'm the co-chair of the Adaptation Working Group at the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction. This is a UN an offshoot of the United Nations, and it's a group that's heavily involved with the UN climate conferences every year. So we attended COP26 last year, and we'll be at COP27 to talk about the role of the built environment in climate change adaptation and mitigation. So that will be in November in Egypt. And then the focus areas for the second half of 2022, you've heard a little bit of this. First, we want to launch, we're working on launching the ICC Oceania office in Australia. Our ICC evaluation service has just been accredited to provide watermark certification for plumbing products in Australia, and it's not as accepted, it's not officially accepted in New Zealand, but they do recognize it. But it's basically listings to Australian standards and international standards, like what we do here for plumbing listings, but it's the Australian system. We're leading in Australia with our TIC services, and that's, I think, a new term that you may hear around ICC. TIC is testing, inspection, and certification. So it's basically our ICC evaluation service, NTA, the product testing and certification. And the scheme in Australia and New Zealand for innovative products is called Codemark, and we're looking at accreditation for Codemark as well as a separate accreditation for our own scheme, the ES mark. So that's where the pain point is in Australia, not as much in New Zealand, but there's opportunity there, but that's where we're starting. And I think there's opportunities for all of our family of solutions, but that's where we're starting. And then we're looking at new sort of membership categories in Australia and New Zealand to help integrate and foster collaboration between building safety officials in the United States and the Oceania region. In the MENA region, again, we have a TIC focus, and especially a discussion about regulating innovative products. There's a lot of use of innovative building products in Australia, in the Middle East, and so we're working with the regulatory authorities to help them. Yeah? MENA, yes, Middle East, North Africa. Thank you, good question. I keep sliding into acronyms. Middle East, North Africa. The SASO is the Saudi Arabian Standard Organization. If you were all here on Monday morning, we awarded the Global Award, and I'm not going to take too much of Jeff's thunder, but the head of of SASO received that Global Award. But they have a special process for companies evaluation companies that want to provide evaluations to listed products, and you have to go through a specific process to become a notified body, and we are in that process now for ICCES for 5 types of products, not 5 products, but 5 categories of products. We're doing some training, really launching sort of local for local solutions in the Middle East, and we're anxiously awaiting the release of the Gulf Building Code. So this is a regional building code that will apply to all of the Gulf states, the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Community member states, and it will be a regional code, and it will be voluntary for the first few years, but then it will become a mandatory code, which means, and it's based on the Saudi Building Code, which is based on the I code. So that means that all of the countries in the Gulf Cooperation Council will be, in a few years, required to be using I-code-based building codes. So that's very exciting. In Canada, we have a collaboration established with Accessibility Standards Canada, working right now on an accessibility standard that's potentially going to be sort of a North American standard, but we're working with them, and they're using A117 right now, which is our accessibility standard, and we're also working with them on existing buildings. Canada does not have an existing building code, and there's been no talk about Canada adopting our IEBC, but Accessibility Standards Canada is really interested in it, so they have some power that the NRC doesn't have, the National Research Council. They may do something with existing buildings and accessibility. Yes?
For existing buildings, most of the buildings in the United States are roughly 200 to 300 years old at tops. In Europe, what is your existing building standard? Because they've got buildings far more older than mine. What's the major code that they do there that we need to implement in the United States?
The question for those online who might not have heard, there was a question about what are the existing building standards in Europe where buildings are much older and there are more historic buildings. There's not one single code in Europe, so there's the Euro codes, which are design codes for new construction primarily, but every country in Europe has their own regulatory system and their own sort of annex to the Euro codes. And I don't think that I'll look at Timo, I don't think there is an existing building provision in the Euro codes.
Nothing, just if existing building is tend to be under
Right, yeah.
construction at that time, they try their best, I mean, to comply with the building code requirements. But it's
Similar to here. Do you want to give him, but it's basically similar to here that if you're doing a certain amount of modification to an existing building, you have to do it to the code, but they're not making changes to the historical parts of the building that would undo the historical nature of it without sacrificing life safety.
So if it's technically impossible, they are not, they can not to comply, I mean. That's the case. In general, about the Euro codes, European countries, member states, they have common just structural design and structural materials, and all other parts of the building codes, they have, each member state, they have their own system. So it's in general. But I did not find any existing building code
No.
structured separately.
Yeah, I might ask David from the UK to add comment. Sorry to move off your report, but it's the topic stands for Jeff. David, have you got anything to add to that?
In the UK, we've had regulations and bylaws for many, many years. If one is to do work on an existing building, then the goal is always to improve it to the best you can, but taking full acknowledgement of what is there. So there are many instances where works that exist are protected and upgraded, so that at some point, if you wanted to go back, you could remove the protection and see what was there. But it is a case of doing the best you can with existing buildings. But new works are required to comply.
Thanks very much, David.
And one remark also, non-compliance, the level of non-compliance must not be more after reconstruction. So, yeah.
Thanks, Timo. Sorry, Judy.
No problem. I'm moving through these a little bit more slowly than I thought I would, so sorry. Where am I? So also in Canada, we are in the process of sort of reestablishing our relationships with the chapters and helping to, like in Oceania, engage with Canadian building safety professionals to talk about issues that the Global Membership Council is dedicated to that affect building safety professionals regardless of what code is being enforced. And also we're in the process of becoming accredited as a standards developer in Canada by the Canadian Standards Association. And so we'll be able to develop North American standards for the US and Canada. COP27, I spoke a little bit about that. The key issues that we're going to be talking about, this is the UN Climate Conference, is embodied carbon. We've got a new standard under development there. The Global Resiliency Dialogue, which we're also involved with, is we're in the process of launching global building resilience guidelines that will be free and applicable to countries around the world, regardless of whether they even have a building code or not, just about how to think about resilience of buildings to increasingly frequent and severe weather hazards due to climate change. And also there's going to be a huge focus, because COP27 is in Africa, on the global south and the special needs of emerging economies. And particularly from our perspective, that involves a lot of capacity building so that a code can actually be enforced. And then other things that are going on, I mentioned the new global standards that we have on embodied carbon. There are also a number of plumbing standards that are under development that we're really trying to make global standards from the very beginning and engage experts from around the world, not just from the United States. We are working in Pakistan to help them adopt a green building code based on the IGCC. We have U.S. Commerce Department funding to help offset the cost of that. So that should be launched, I think, by the end of the year. And then Lawrence is helping me do a reboot of our global communications. So hopefully the Global Membership Council website and all of our global communications, the landing page for the global microsite, all of this will be updated. We are adding French translation to our global microsite. And as all of our websites sort of get updated, we'll have an update to that microsite as well, probably next year. And then I just have a little bit of information from our marketing department. There's the website, the ICC Safe website is, it got a real nice facelift. It's much more user-friendly for those of you who haven't seen it. I encourage you to check it out. But as part of that, they're updating the membership council websites. So our heavily outdated and not outdated and not updated enough, thanks to me, website will be, it will also get a facelift. So the expectation is that this will be launched by the end of the year, and we'll be able to have a new membership website. This is the Fire Service Membership Council as an example, but we'll have something like this for Global Membership Council with a nice header, and then we'll have different sections. So it'll start with the description and mission and the Global Membership Council logo, an easy access to join, a header for the news section, so it'll be really clear when the next meeting is, link to join that meeting or to register for that meeting, and then the news section at the bottom. And then we'll have at the very bottom resources awards. Like right now, we have a link to the global award. We have a link to the global building codes tool. We have a link to the global forum, and I think there's one other. But we'll be able to identify what we want to highlight, and then at the bottom we'll have the governing committee, which we already have. But this looks much prettier than what we have right now. And that is my report. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I thank you for your patience.
What's the major difference between your membership and WOBA?
So our membership, David Gibson, who's on the line from England, is a governor of WOBO. So I'm gonna give a brief answer, and then I'm gonna turn it over to David, because we have asked David to become more engaged in our membership council as a representative of WOBO. But I mean, the basic difference is that it's the host organization, right? The International Code Council is made up of ICC members or other people who are interested in engaging in the dialogue. You don't have to be a member of ICC to be a member of the Global Membership Council. But we do have very similar missions, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to be working together. I think there might be a little bit more of more qualification requirements for WOBO members, that I think you might have to be a building official. But I'm going to turn it over to David to talk a little bit more about the WOBO membership. But for us, you know, as long as you have an interest in global building safety, you're welcome to be a member of the Global Membership Council. David, do you want to talk a bit about WOBO?
Okay, sure. As an entity, it was originally geared up around building codes and building safety, very much linked to the work of the United Nations. As time has evolved, so has the organisation, and the membership is very broad. We're really talking to people in organisations that are involved in safety, safety of built environment, safety of the people in and about buildings. And there are a lot of different aspects of how we can assist and promote activities, training, awareness. One of some of those very much
Thank you, David. Does that answer your question, Jeff? Alvaro?
I do have a question that actually is
Thank you, Alvaro. The question for those online was about the training programs that we're launching or that we're working on in the MENA region, who are the target audiences and what is the content, basically. So even though we have a regional office and a regional approach, each country is different. So in the United Arab Emirates, there's not a mandated set of regulations that designers must follow. So a building can be constructed to any sort of internationally recognized code or standard in the UAE, which means that buildings can be designed and built according to the IBC, which means that there's demand for training and certification on the IBC. And so we have offered our sort of off-the-shelf trainings, IBC Essentials. We've done some certification, I think the fire inspector certification, boot camp kind of classes, and in UAE, and people have taken those classes. We've offered them at times that are convenient. It's all been remote or virtual training that's convenient for people in the Middle East. But we're working with a group on the ground in Dubai, and it's been sort of a train the trainer. They're fire safety consultants, and they're able to, and they know the IBC, they know the IFC, and they're able to do the training locally. And so they have our slides, we have a relationship with them, and they can offer trainings in person or virtually. And their focus has so far been on our off-the-shelf kind of IBC trainings. However, in Saudi Arabia, there's a Saudi building code that is mandated, and that code is based on the 2015 I codes. And so we are working with this, well, we've developed several training modules that are self-paced and available online for professionals in Saudi Arabia or anybody working in Saudi Arabia to implement the Saudi building code. And so the trainings are open to anyone. They're open to building officials, they're open to design professionals. It's not limited, anybody can take the classes. In Saudi Arabia, we did work with the Saudi Council of Engineers, and they've offered a lot of their own training classes, but I don't think they've been heavily technical. They've been focused on engineers, design professionals. And now we're working with this entity, Vortex Fire, in the UAE that also knows the Saudi codes, and they're working on taking our training that we've developed for the Saudi building codes and making that available as live training. So it's sort of a local solution with people on the ground who understand who better than us understand the types of construction that are happening. They have better pictures that they can insert into the training material, and they can give more examples that will resonate with the audience being trained. And then we're also working with the authorities that are supposed to be implementing the codes, the code officials. And we're trying to get them trained also, and specifically on innovative products, so that they understand the role of an organization like ICC-ES and how they can use an ESR to make sure that a building is safe and compliant. So there's a lot of different levels, but we are trying to expand what we can offer by working with a local partner that understands our codes. Does that answer that question? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Judy, as well as my absolute personal thanks for your efforts, I'm sure on behalf of the council, I want to express our extreme gratitude for the work you put in. This woman doesn't sleep. Honestly, I work on a 14-hour time difference, and no matter through my day when I send something, Judy will answer it. And I know she doesn't sleep because she's been sending me stuff here at 2 a.m. in the morning. So, Judy, thank you so much. I think the ICC as a body is extremely, it's a better organisation for you, and certainly this council has grown tremendously under your guidance as our staff member. And as I said, my personal thanks to you and global thanks from the council. So thank you very much, Judy.
This is my job, thank you, but it's my job.
Yeah, but you do go to sleep sometimes.
And now you know why I don't try to give any more of a detailed staff ICC liaison report from the board, because there's no way I can compete with that.
Okay, so what I want to do now, the next one I want to look at is what we've done 21-22, what we've done well, what we haven't quite done well, and then we can move into a discussion about ideas and how we can progress forward. So I suppose, as I mentioned in my opening statement, the webinar series has been a great success. It's not only we get quite a few live attendees. I think Annie Lou's last one for timber, there was quite a few online for that.
Over 100.
There's over 100 online. And the soft skills one also was really well attended. As I said, those recordings are available on our website. So they've worked really, really well. Our two upcoming ones, Imad El Darubi in Jordan is putting some work together on architectural studies, and he's reaching out to his colleagues here in the US. We're looking at the UAE. Now we have the MENA office over there. He's looking at the UK, also Japan and Australia to put something together around some architectural studies. And the last topic for the year is around some fire issues, and Rock is working on that. Do you have an update, or is it still in that large box type scenario?
Yeah. Working with the Fire Service Committee, and they're very interested working with us. So we're trying to, I had a meeting with them previously, and then yesterday. So they sponsored a webinar on Tuesday. I think Chief O'Brien provided its focus on energy, but mainly on fire response. So we're thinking that we're going to make a 4-part seminar. We're going to recruit Chief O'Brien, make the fire response one part of it, and design, I guess, enforcement as other parts. And then the other idea is that, we're hoping that we could offer CUs by, attending webinars. I think that's going to benefit the members, and hopefully, that'll be a tool that we could, recruit, or, maybe we can generate some revenue. So the Fire Service Membership Committee, they were very interested on that.
Okay, thanks, Rock. So they're what coming. When we go to the next one, I'll sort of reach out to see if we can get some other suggestions for topics. Some of the new initiatives which we've started for this particular get-together, we had, we're there now. Don't go. No?
Is that what you wanted? Sorry.
Let's go
That
back.
was 2021, sorry.
Oh, that was our 2021.
Yeah.
Sorry, it is. Yep. So some of the events which we planned, one was our networking lounge. So we had 2 days of well, just sort of a bit mixed up a bit.
Yeah, I think it should be 2022.
Yeah, so I said 21, 22. So we had the networking lounge. We've trialled that for a couple of days through the ABM, where it was just a place where people can come and sit and talk. We had a number of set topics to open discussion. It went really well. We had a very lively discussions from America's First Nations people and codes in there, which was really good. But I think the idea works. We've just got to massage it a little bit more, but it's certainly something we'd like to carry on with. The other one we're trying and is some education sessions. And we have an education session on the code development process immediately following this meeting. So it's another thing that we want to try and do. And a lot of these things were of great interest to certainly US-based members. We're also trying to put some more content in there to attract more global members to visit us. So some of the things that we do look at, or did try to look at to try and get that, the quantum over here is visits to building departments. It's for the global members when they come in. I travel 20 odd hours to get here, but it's always interesting to see how the local jurisdictions work and how they do things. So we want to try and do that, and it's probably something we'll try to that if we can engage with the local building departments. And we're not talking about hundreds of people, we're just talking about small delegations of people to go in, and we can see how things operate and make areas of discussion. So because we only had, you can see by the number of so some of the delegations weren't able to get here. So that's been shelved. The other thing we wanted to look at was to try and have some dedicated breakfasts or lunch or items like that where we can all get together and discuss, and some set topics there or expo meetups that started a few years ago. It seems we don't have those sort of topic stands now at the expo this year, so I don't know what's changed in those. So, but that's something else we wanted to look up or look at. I just want to do that there. Okay. The other project we're trying to look at is increasing our membership and engagement and to grow our membership. And I think for those of you who are in the joint council meetings, the suggestion that everybody join every membership council is a great idea, but also we want people to also dedicate or have an interest in global issues to become more active globally, because as you see, we haven't got a quorum for our executive. And we always seem to struggle to get a quorum for the executive, so we're trying to increase that membership, but we're also trying to increase engagement within the topics that we do. And I think hopefully the snapshot you're giving you can see we've got a lot of interesting things happening out there in the ethos. The other initiatives that we carry on is the Global Award. If you were at the ABM, you would have seen that we had His Excellency Dr. Saad bin Othman Al-Kasabi, who's the governor of SASO, the standards writing body from UAE. We presented him the Global Award for this year. So that has been a success. So again, we'll be looking for outstanding candidates for our Global Award for next year. And The big one and the big success I think we had this year was our global forum, or it's now the Global Building Safety Dialogue. As I said, if you didn't get to that event, which was yesterday? I forget what day it is. It was yesterday. We had an absolutely brilliant presentation from Jill Koenig from Arup around the Grenfell fire. That's a person who had personal involvement and loss within that fire, and it was one of the most passionate papers I've seen delivered in a long time. It was quite moving, but a very thought-provoking paper that Jill gave us. We also had a couple of virtual presentations we focused on disasters and lessons learned from disasters. So those sort of functions, I definitely want to see this council continue with, but we'd really love to see a lot more engagement from US-based people there, because they're matters of global interest. I think what we've got to find though is timings that don't conflict, and that's very hard when we have as many things that the ICC has to try and fit into this conference, is to try to get timings where you can catch a maximum audience. And it was one of the issues raised at the council chairs meeting about the fact is now all the council meetings are now. So you toss a coin to see which one you go to, if you're members of all of them. So that's something that we're going to formulate and between the council chairs and probably take to the board to get some sort of input from the organising committees as to how we can probably better manage our council meetings. Do I have any questions on that? Yes?
So, if I'm interested to join the board membership of volunteer group, the concern when I have a full-time job, how much time is talking about a year, days, weeks? So this is always a concern for me, like what I'm involved. I'm a delivery electrician.
Yep.
I'm a professional engineer, so part of the professional.
Thank you.
Always the concern is that it affect my application for the job.
Look, I think the time that you put in is as much as you can afford. Any time is anything. Judy does all the work. She's there all the time. Yeah, so... yeah.
So, obviously, we have full-time jobs. So, we have quarterly meetings, that lasts usually 90 minutes.
90 minutes, 2 hours tops.
Right. Other than that, if you want to volunteer for other assignments, you just have to invest, some of the time. But, I think we're basically looking for, somebody like you, who's professional.
So the other thing is, given the geographic locations of the members, a lot of it's virtual time. We generally pin the meetings around US time with the time zones across the country here. It's pretty early in the morning for me. Our colleague in the UK, it's pretty late at night for him, but we tend to be able to find somewhere in between. Timo, who's just joined the committee, will try and slot him somewhere in there, but we adjust. But look, from a time point of view, any time you can contribute is valuable, and it certainly doesn't interfere with your day job. I can say that. Jeff? Cost to join is absolutely zero. So to be on the executive, you just have to be an ICC member. But to be a contributing member of the Global Council, we are the only council to be a member. you only have to be a member of an organisation that supports building safety anywhere in the world. You don't have to be an ICC member, but you do need to be an ICC member to be on the executive. And we've developed a global membership category to specifically cater for international members. And it's essentially a stripped-down version of your local membership for ICC, because the global members don't want to get a free copy of the code with their membership. So we've stripped...
Some of them. Timo does.
Timo does. So he's got to sign up for the bigger membership. See?
He already did. He already
Yeah,
did.
so we've got a stripped down membership version to attract people who don't use the I codes. Like, for instance, Australia does not use the I codes. We have our own national building code and construction code. So there's a membership category to bring those in. New Zealand doesn't use the I codes. It has its New Zealand building code. So we have those sorts of things. So any time you can give is valuable time.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
So what you'll find is, as he said, it takes 90 minutes. It's usually around 3:30 in the afternoon, once a quarter. And then as you have more time, you volunteer for more projects. If you have not so much time, then you contribute less to the projects. And then you can do things like I just did to take on training. I'm teaching the class that's right after this, and so preparation for that class took a little more time. But the thing about that is you can do it when you're not at work. You can do it in your off time on your weekends. And the projects here, because it's global and because we only plan it for like certain time, we can schedule it around whatever time that it can fit in with you. So any help is appreciated. Oh, and Bob wants to add something as well.
I'm going to steal her mic. So, over the last year and a half, we lost a couple of principals in our firm, and so I had to pick up extra work, and so I leaned on the other council members, said, hey, I need some time to focus on my day job, and I got to tell you, we already know she doesn't sleep, right? So I think maybe I added to some of that, I'm sorry. But I would, if you're asking the question, join.
So we're not only, we're welcome, as a global membership members, we're also looking for you guys serving on the committee. So the commitments that we got 2 terms and maximum 3 years, right? Each term. So I think it's really rewarding that, obviously, we're all co-professions, and then, if you want to spread, globally, safety, building codes, and then, with your connections, hopefully we can attract more members. So that's what we're looking for. Thank you.
As part of the global community, can you define the projects or the assignment that global members can contribute to the next agenda item? You read minds.
Sorry, that's our next agenda item. So,
Hang on just a moment.
no other questions on our past activities? Yes?
There's a microphone coming.
Yes. How do you initiate a chapter in a different country? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes. How do you initiate the process of starting a chapter in a different country?
There's a specific council policy and process for establishing chapters. So for a global chapter, you need to have 10 members that are paid ICC members. So to establish a chapter, you need to have 10 paid ICC members that are not all from the same company or organization. So some diversity in the membership. But the loophole is that those 10 people don't have to renew their ICC membership. They're just like initiating members of the chapter. So that's how it is right now. I'm not sure how I feel about it. We have, chapters in Nigeria and Kenya, but we actually have no members from Kenya and Nigeria, but we have chapters. So, in the sense of outreach, it makes sense, but it's not growing our global membership. But there's a very specific policy. If you're interested, I can give you the details and send you to the link. But we can walk you through that process.
Thank you.
And as Rock said, once there is a chapter established internationally, we can set that chapter up for success by matching them with a US-based chapter in the sister chapter program that's sponsored by this Global Membership Council. So the Bangladesh chapter, that chapter was just approved by the board, and so for sure we're going to get them set up with a US-based chapter to sort of help them integrate and understand about everything that ICC has to offer.
And on the other side of that, if you have a U.S. chapter that would like to be a sister to one of our international chapters, which means hold their hand, help them get established, give them ideas for programs, how to grow their membership, things that you do in your chapter. If you have a chapter that is willing to do that, please give your names to either Jeff or Judy so that we begin this list of how we can do partnerships.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion there? Okay, so what I'd like to do now is sort of open up for a bit of discussion about where we go for 2023. One of the working groups we've set up is improving the value proposition for members, particularly for the global members. There is a working group set up for that, but it hasn't met as yet, so we're looking for people to contribute to join that group.
Get a new chair of that group, please.
Who's current chair? Yeah, so we are looking for bodies, but if not bodies, ideas as to what we can do to look at that value proposition of being part of the Global Membership Council. What can we do to get more members actively involved with the council? I'll open that. You can.
So last year at our annual meeting, we established 2 working groups. One of them was a working group that was looking at global activities at the annual conference, and that was chaired by Imad, and he did a fantastic job. And I worked again very closely with him and we pulled all of we brought in the whole global membership. So everybody who is a global member of the Global Membership Council got an e-blast and was invited to a meeting to brainstorm. And we had about 60 or 70 people join the call to talk about what are interesting activities that we can add to sort of a global track for the annual conference. And we started this, early in the year. And I think the process was very successful because we came up with suggestions that were approved by the executive board or the governing committee, and then I took it internally at ICC to staff, to my colleagues, and we were able to put together some of these new events this year. And it was with input from a lot of Global Membership Council members. It wasn't sort of limited to the governing committee, which a lot of our discussions end up that's what happens because we just don't get a lot of attendance from membership at the governing committee meetings that are held quarterly. I was hoping to set up something similar with the value proposition group, but I didn't have someone to kind of take the helm from the governing committee, and we do need somebody to do that. But I think the call will go out to everyone who is listed as a member of the Global Membership Council. So again, if you're not registered, please do that, because that's how we know who you are, and that's how we can get in contact with you. There's no cost to do it. And then we'll call some meetings together and start to brainstorm about what value do people outside the U.S. who might not be using the I codes, what value can they find in being members of the ICC? How can we help them to engage? And I think we really do need to redefine that global, that proposition. And so I think especially for people who are based outside the United States. You know, we got a lot of really good ideas from people in the US, but the target audience is people, the people who are interested to join or who don't know about what we do, you know, how can we do a better job of communicating and connecting and bringing more people into the dialogue? Because everybody benefits. U.S. code officials, U.S. building safety professionals benefit from talking to people from outside the United States and vice versa. So we want to really grow the global side of our membership and our discussions. So that's what I'm hoping we'll be able to do this year. It just never took off last year. But so if you do get an invitation or you do see a notice to participate in that working group, please participate.
Thank you, Judy. And look, and that sort of, that covers a number of the topics, you know, already that are down, you can see on the screen there about, you know, what we want to try and do is increase that engagement within the council. The second dot point you can see there is the virtual visits to building departments. And this has come out of the Global Activities Working Group. Unfortunately, the chair is not online to further discuss that, but I'll ask again my lexicon of knowledge here to outline that a little bit for us.
The visits to the global or to local building departments was, as Jeff mentioned, something that was of interest to global members when they come to the United States for the annual conference. They're interested in seeing how building departments in the United States operate. We didn't really have enough people here from outside the United. I think there were about a dozen people from outside the United States registered for the conference this year. A lot of you are in this room, and so it just wasn't. It didn't feel like it was worth it to make that arrangement when we didn't even know that all of the global members would attend. But secondly, when we did reach out to the local building departments, most of them are working virtually. And so that gave me the idea of, why do we need to do it when people are here? If the building departments in the US are working virtually, we can arrange virtual visits. So I think that's something that we can look at doing in the coming year. And actually, I was talking to Arlington, Virginia, right, and Allison and Sharihar I said, maybe you guys want to be the first one, and they were like, yeah, sign us up. So, you know, I think there are a lot of building departments in the United States that would be happy to speak with, you know, a group of global members about how, and exchange ideas. Again, that's what we're facilitating, a discussion. Regardless of what codes you're implementing, there are similar struggles around the world and similar challenges and best practices and success stories. So that might be something we put on the agenda for.
Thanks. Certainly, I think we'll, no doubt that's in Imad's basket list for his working group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It will be.
yeah, if it's not, it will be, yeah. We've already discussed about encouraging increased engagement in there. Does anyone have any comments to add in there? We've covered that quite a few times, you know, a little bit already with some of the engagement we've had already from the audience. Sorry? Imad El-Darubi. That's going to be confusing. You know, he's actually an honorary member of the ICC. He's been contributing to the ICC for many, many years, but also was a great contributor to WOBO, as well as a WOBO governor. The next one is the webinar series. As I said, we've got the next 2 sort of in a box, but we want to have 4 topics for next year. So if anyone's got any suggestions of something I'd like to hear about, and I say these webinars are not just for the global members, we generally get global involvement to give US-based members a bit of an insight about what else is happening in the world. You know, particularly I'll come back to Annie Lou's Tall Wood Buildings seminar. I said in Australia, we voted them in 2018, buildings up to 9 stories. And we went through all the pain and suffering that certainly has probably been bashed around upstairs in the code hearings about tall wood buildings. We've been there, done that, and Annie Lou got one of the key drivers that was in Australia, Boris Iska from Wood Solutions in Australia. He was the one that put all the engineering and everything together that's in the Australian Building Code. And you know, it's been one of the things that I find a little bit frustrating as I travel the world. Every country wants, we all do the same thing, but every country wants to do it themselves. You know, we've got to do it our way, otherwise it's not ours. So, but those are the sorts of topics we want to try and look at. You know, soft skills. That was another one where we had Singapore and other countries around. How do we deal with those soft skills? So, topics that people want to hear about, and we're open to suggestions. Open to suggestions. And generally, what we'll do with that topic is we will get a global input. We'll have a local input and we'll have a global input. So it's a collective of ideas. So I wouldn't expect anyone, unless you've got something really burning off the top of your chest that you'd love to hear about. It's certainly something that we might put out a call to arms for our email splash for ideas and topics. If you've got some ideas, you can pop them in.
Yes, I have, again, I know who based here in Kentucky, but originally from Colombia, South America.
Just push the button.
Thank you. Once again, I am Álvaro Polanco, member of the Court Administrators Association of Kentucky, chapter who host this ICC conference. And originally, even though I am based here in Kentucky, originally I am from Colombia, South America. I am myself also architect and master in urban management. Back in my country, I do still have a lot of links, professionals, engineers, architects, and governmental entities. And I have been invited to webinars, and I have heard from different South American countries that during those seminars, they do have questions about how US implements codes. And between, for instance, last time, Nicaragua, Chile, I believe it was there as well, Ecuador was there, Colombia, of course, was there, had different approaches to building codes. Some of them, or most of them, were using standards from Europe in regards to fire codes. But almost all of them were using NFPAs. And they were having questions about, should I be using European standards or US standards to be in compliance, similar than what he was mentioning before, that they do the best to get information from different countries, but without having really a common word or standard on how to approach building codes. That was one of the first questions that I mentioned before. So my idea here is that since we all have, or are, I mean, most of us in this audience have probably ties from our countries, and we know a little bit of how each country develops or try to implement codes. Why don't we just do a webinar from them to let them know how they actually try to survive the implementation of building codes? Because I know that they go online, I ask, okay, so how did you find about IBC? Which version are you using? Some of them said, well, so we go online and we checked the most updated version that pulls on the website, and I say, okay, is that valid for your country? So we don't know. So my thinking, again, is that why don't we just reach out those countries, our countries, do a seminar, webinar, find how they are doing, and try to get a consensus or reach them back with the same approaches that we are doing.
Sounds like someone volunteering as a project leader there, doesn't it?
For South America and Central America.
Thanks, Alvaro.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
in the past, we have received requests from different countries. For example, in Colombia, we were invited, I and then 4 other professionals, we represented ICC, went to Bogota and then Barranquilla. We did presentations, seminars. It was really well received. We have, from the building department, firefighters, contractors, and then academics. We presented topics from building codes, fire stopping, life safety. It lasts, several days, and people asking questions, specifically, the questions you have mentioned. They're very interested in, the NPA standards, building codes, regulations. Obviously, I think at that time, they're still developing, the Columbia building codes. We came there actually at the right time. So, again, we're looking for that type of, connections so that, we can provide, the expertise, the helps that, the global community is looking for. That's why, the membership is very important. So that's, I guess that's another proposition that, that's us, we can provide.
Sounds like you just got your second one.
Yeah, look, thank you for that. That's a topic we can put in there, and we can work that. Alvaro, you're always not joining our online meetings, so that's a topic we might be able to tease out, and certainly we can correspond by email in there. Yes, sir. Can you grab the microphone? Please? Just. Yep.
Training.
Yes.
So my question or suggestion is that is this body somehow affiliated with the ICC high school, technical high school development, technical high school program? Because I think sometimes too we have to look at cultivating young minds. Because I went to a technical school in West Africa, Liberia, and while I was in school, I never heard of a building code. Up to now, I don't even know what I know building high-rise and whatever. But see, sometimes we have to look at this from high school, in other countries. Look at it from the high school level to the universities to see if we can start recruiting them from there. Because once they leave the school system, they're out in the world. If they're not introduced to the code, they will just follow the contractors and just keep doing whatever they want to do. But once they get the training and the mindset how things are supposed to be done, then that will also grow the global awareness of building safety.
You're speaking right to my heart.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that is one of the major initiatives that the ICC itself does, not so much this chapter, and Shirley is one of the champions around that. So if you wanted to say something on that, Shirley.
Yes, I've been working on that for many years, the technical training program, and in Texas, we've been working very hard. We have a lot of a need for that. In the U.S., what we did is several years ago, they decided everyone needed to go to college, and they got rid of vocational training. And here we are now years later, and we have a shortage of we have a lot of college graduates, and we don't have anybody to like fix our plumbing. So we're really working on that hard. And so if you want to take offline and get with me, I am going to be at 11:30 in the L16 for our training on the code process. But when that's over, let's sit down and have a discussion. We can get you in touch with some people and help you, bring you on board to take what we're doing in the U.S. to help us take it global. I would love to do that.
I was part of it a couple of years ago with, I don't remember the guy's name, trying to bring it to Arlington County, Virginia, where I am. Imad is my boss, you know, one of my bosses. And I know what you're talking about. If some of the schools in the U.S. had a little bit of resistance, because we went to one school in Arlington, and we met with them several times, and there was a little bit of pushback, and but I will get with you in touch with you. Take it from there. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. So look, we'll leave that as an open item, as I said, to get those topics and that we might be able to put through into those seminar series. The other thing we want to look at, this is probably an internal thing, is because some of these seminar series have been so popular and well put together, we want to try and develop the outcomes from those into Building Safety Journal articles. Badged under the Global Membership Council. So again, we'll probably look to the chairs of the actual that put the webinars together to try and formulate something and liaise with the editors to try and get material that we can publish in Building Safety Journal. Okay, so that's sort of a wrap up what we done, where we'd like to go this year. It's really a continuation, I think, from last year. Now, as we're sort of getting back to more and more normality, if there's any such thing, we might be able to drive these initiatives a bit more. A couple of those initiatives were trials at this conference. We've now got some good material to work with and massage to make them much better. So at this point in time, I'd like to open the floor for any other business that anyone wants to raise, and I'll start with my executive team. No. You can certainly. Timo's, yep.
Thank you. Again, I want to talk about a few words about the opportunities we will have in my region, like Eastern Europe and hopefully maybe Central Asian countries. Let's say former Soviet countries. We all together utilize still Soviet standards for construction mainly, and last update it has been done in 1989, so it's quite an old system of building codes. And even, for example, one example is that in the plumbing code they do not have plastic pipes at all. I mean, you can imagine how old the standards are. So maybe there's an opportunity somehow to have one conference with the representatives who are engaged in their code development processes in that region, and we can just explore. We can just tell them what the system is of ICC family of codes. This is of course, all know that this is the best model system in the world. It's comprehensive, and all these countries can take any regulation they need, adopt, as we did in Georgia. So we utilize right now Ibqc non-structural provisions. It's not the final version, but it was 2009 version, but anyway, and also accessibility standard. So, and we think to move forward, and such opportunity can be given to these countries because they do not know. They still rely on old Soviet norms, and it's the public health and safety is not ensured in that case. So maybe it will be a good opportunity for expanding ICC codes there, or any knowledge.
Yeah, thanks, Timo. You know, that's something we can probably start and initiate and push through global services for that sort of interaction.
Yeah, I would say that's more of a ICC initiative than a Global Membership Council initiative, but I have been talking with our new, I guess he's the Senior Vice President of Training, Matthew Wynn, about, you know, offering some sort of overview class that gives people a foundation about building codes in general and the I-codes specifically. But, you know, that sort of foundation class would be really useful for politicians and people in the United States who are not involved with building codes, but somehow they reach a position where they have to know something about it. And so it just gives them a foundation. So I think that may be something that will come, and I will be in touch with you about how we deploy it in Central Asia.
Thank you, Timo. Anybody else would like to contribute? Rock?
I have some suggestions on the new website design. I think the global, I guess the foreign, it's kind of a waste. So I guess, you know, if we can replace that with just, you know, a question, so we can just send questions to you, and then that's probably better. And then if we could consolidate all of the webinars onto our website, yeah, rather than just, you know, kind of spread on YouTube's, you know, you got to search for it.
Thanks, Rock. Yeah, that's you know, if we've got good material, we don't want it buried under not so good material. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Yes, Annie Lou, thank you.
Hi, I'm Annie Lou. I would just like to add there's been a lot of questions on time commitment with this council. This was my first year with the Global Membership Council, and I honestly had no idea what I was getting into when I joined it. And then I volunteered to host a webinar, which was far outside my comfort zone. And I'm really glad I did. Judy helped me so much, and I learned so much, and it's just been so great and so beneficial. I would encourage anyone to join and stretch yourself a little bit.
Thanks very much, Annie Lou. Nothing else? Yep.
So the way that the Global Membership Council is structured is that anybody can join the Global Membership Council. And so there's this larger group of Global Membership Council members. We have one meeting a year of the whole Global Membership Council. That's this meeting. We have a very small percentage of our members attending the meeting, which is a challenge. Then laying on top of that, we have the governing committee. And that is the 12 members that are elected by the membership to serve, and a lot of those members are here. We have 4 governing committee meetings throughout the year, and those are the ones that are on Zoom. And we tried to do a better job of advertising those meetings to the whole Global Membership Council members. And so the governing committee meetings are not closed. They're open to anyone, and like this meeting, there's always an agenda item for, open comments from the floor, from all ICC members, all Global Membership Council members. So I think, Annie Lou's discussion is specifically about the involvement on the governing committee, where there is an expectation that you're at least at those 4 quarterly meetings, and hopefully you're taking some initiative and leading a working group or leading a webinar. But you don't have to be a member of the governing committee to volunteer to lead a webinar. So the aim is to get more global members involved in the Global Membership Council, and hopefully through that involvement, maybe you'll want to serve on the governing committee, or maybe you don't, and maybe you're just really interested in a specific topic and want to lead a working group or want to lead a webinar. And I think we're still in the early stages of really trying to increase the involvement of Global Membership Council members. But anything that people want to do is welcome. And actually, this year, the nominating committee for the governing committee they chose to leave 2 seats vacant on the governing committee because we didn't feel, or not we, the nominating committee did not feel like there was enough interest from people who had been involved as members of the Global Membership Council, number one. And number two, no one from outside the United States applied to be a member of the governing committee. And so Timo was a nomination from the floor. He's been involved with ICC and the Global Membership Council since like way before I was even thinking about anything related to building safety. So he was asked to, or he was nominated from the floor. He's now a new member of the governing committee, but there are 2 empty seats.
2 empty seats.
And hopefully they will be filled by people from outside the United States. That's not my call. I'm just the staff liaison. I don't have a vote, but I do whatever I can to support the initiatives that are set by the governing committee and that we hear from the Global Membership Council members.
Thank you. That answers your question? Yep.
I think dropping an email will increase awareness of all international members to join the global, let's say, membership, since it is a free of charge. To be part of the global forum and even, as you said, leading initiative or even being part of the assignments.
No, look, certainly that's something we look at, as we're trying to increase the engagement. I think we have some restrictions about what access to databases to be able to send stuff out, but I'm sure we could work with something. Certainly, because it was raised from the floor at the joint meeting about people joining all the membership councils. You individually join all councils, and that way you get all the emails. But it's certainly something we'll look at. So thank you for the suggestion. Is about, if we can reach to the greater membership to actually encourage them to join this council, we'll see what we can do. But there are limitations on access to database. Mike?
So,
Yeah.
Here's my question. So Mike Boso, ICC Board of Directors. We are the International Code Council. And this is really the international side of it. And my dream is one day an international board member will be on the board. And so that's something that I would like you guys to start thinking about and how to get that and make that happen. But I think that would complete the picture.
Been working on that for 10 years, Mike. I
If
think,
there's anything the board can do for you, you know, we're here. You know, and bounce ideas. I know Judy is great at solving issues and figuring out ways to make things happen. But whatever we can do to make that happen, like I say, I think that would really complete the picture.
yeah, thanks, Mike. Look, it's certainly, I've had those discussions with board members since I first started coming here in 2008 about how that works, and I think it's something to do probably with the Constitution. The fact is we're attached to Region 12, we think. So it's something about that. How do you actually get to be nominated to come through the board if you're not part of a region? And then even coming as a director at large, there's issues around that as well. So, yeah, I think it'd be great for the organisation, but do we have the structures within the organisation to facilitate that?
Well, I'll continue on Mike's. The board has discussed this as well. So we're also looking at how do we make sure that the pathway's clear so that you don't start down that pathway and then we run into something. And it was something we discussed at the board level on at least 2 occasions, maybe more, and then several outside discussions. So we're working on that as well. And if you have any suggestions of where your roadblocks are, please bring them to me and I'll bring them to the board and we'll see if we can't start working at it from both sides.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as I said, there was some encouragement, you know, quite a few years ago that I was sort of encouraged to nominate to go to the board, but there was just no mechanism to do it and the way things facilitate in it. So, yeah, it's something to discuss. And the other thing you do have to consider too is if the board member has to be an active board member, and you know, if a global member in a different time zone, you know, it's the cost to the ICC. You know, for me to come to the States for a 1-day meeting, it's 5 days that I lose, because I lose, you know, 2 days coming in and I lose 2 days going home. So it's a big commitment for someone who's not US based to contribute to the board. So that's other issues within that. So thank you for the comments. Anything else? Seeing nothing, thank you so much. David, sorry, I forgot your little pictures disappeared off the screen. I keep forgetting. Is there anything from anyone online they wanted to add?
No, I think it's been a very interesting discussion and lots of initiatives to take forward. And I will try and assist where I can from the UK and the WOGO basis. So thank you for being able to participate. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. And on that note, my thanks to everyone for being here, and thank you for the contributions, and I will declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.
Sorry, one more thing, which is not, it's not an item of, whoa, how did we end up there? We have Shirley mentioned that she's offering a training class, and I'm trying to get that up here on the screen. There. It is in room L16. You are able to claim CEUs for attending this 1-hour training that is free. It is an overview of the code development process and an introduction to the public comment hearings. So if you're not familiar with how our codes are developed or what's happening at the hearings when they start at 1, come to this education session and you'll be able to walk into the hearings and sort of understand what's going on. So please come. It's the first time we've put something like this on. It was an initiative suggested by the Global Membership Council, but it's open to everyone and we hope that we'll have a full room.
And Irene Knott is going to be my co-presenter. She's a national codes specialist for BRR Architect and has served on several committees between the two of us, because if it goes too long and you have too many questions, I may have to leave because I have a convocation breakfast with the board. So we have two people presenting, and we'll be there as long as you need us there.
And if you didn't sign in, please do that on the little rocket book on the table, please. Thank you.
I won't be able to, Judy, I won't be able to get that. It can be recorded.
It is not, I'm sorry, David, it's in person only.
Thanks again, David.
But Judy,
Thanks again, David.
send him the slides.
David, I'll get you the slides.